This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Got G Bush in the building today. By the way, G, man, and you know, I normally come on here roasting you, but you came out here. I like the fit. It's clean. The waves, they look at summer ready. Like they looking like you could surf a little bit on them. You know, you've been putting that work in on them waves. You know, I gotta get the homie credit. What credit is due. You know, I don't want people out here thinking I'm a hater.
Hey, listen, now you guys just put the cap on. You know what I'm saying? You know, sometimes but you got to put a work in. I'm due for a cut. I'm about to wolf it though, so I'm gonna really just go in and get some strokes in. Pause. I'm gonna wolf it, and you know what I'm saying. Make sure I got a new brush. We're gonna do our thing with it, and then I get that cut. We're gonna be ready to go. So I mean, how you doing? I mean, what you doing with yours? Like, you gonna go with the curls?
Nope. Let's talk about the Browns. You already said you about to stroke it. We got to just talk about football now, dog. Like, all right.
That was crazy too.
Yeah, that was nuts. All right.
There's another one.
So let's talk about the Cleveland Browns here. They extended Kevin Stefanski. They extended Andrew Berry, right? And I think sometimes we get carried away and we're like, oh, they need to achieve all of these things in the first contract, right? But you're trying to build a foundation. And I think this foundation, you look at where the Browns were, and you can even go all the way back to Paul DePodesta for me, where it's like, okay, you hired Paul DePodesta. That's where you start to get more of a vision for what the team was trying to do, right? They started to tank, where they started to just not intentionally lose games, but build a roster where winning was not the optimization, right? Draft picks were what they were optimizing for. And they end up getting some really good players out of that optimization. But yes, you improved the players. You didn't improve the coaching. You didn't improve the GM, right? Like Sachi Brown, whoever was coaching at the time, Hugh Jackson, all that stuff. Not really a great situation. Then you hit phase two of this. And I don't think this was planned phase. So I just think this just happened. Phase two of this is, okay, well, after we done hired so many bad coaches, Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens, let's let Paul pick the GM and the head coach. Picks Kevin Stefanski. He picks Andrew Berry. That really stabilizes things. Now you have a general manager, a head coach you feel like are extension worthy. And now you move on to what's next, where it's like, okay, now you have to maintain that stability. For the first time since the Browns came back since 1999, I feel like they have an identity. Right? Like there's an identity. You know what to expect about the Cleveland Browns. Everybody knows who the GM is. It's not a guess of like, oh, who's that GM there now? Who's there over here now? Or who's that head coach there now? We all know who the Browns coach is. We all know who the Browns GM is. There's stability there. And I think that should be celebrated. But as we move forward into this thing, it's also time that we start raising the bar. And I think now that you have a GM in his second contract, now that you have a head coach in his second contract, stuff that flew as valid excuses aren't going to fly. Like, I don't think we can do the thing anymore where we're like, well, he's the best head coach in Browns history since 1999. It's just now he's getting judged not against what the Browns have done. Now that he's out that first contract, he's getting judged on what everybody else is doing because that's what he's being judged upon. But for G, what do you see the next step for this? Like, we know winning, and obviously you want to get to a Super Bowl, but the next step to kind of solidify where the Browns are, whether that be quarterback play, like where do you think they need to go next to hit that next level of build? Because they've already got that foundation. Now, what do you think?
So listen, I would, I would do the whole NFL films thing. When I was growing up, they used to have the NFL films, and they used to have the end of the year roundup, videos, and you would watch them, and it would say Cleveland Browns, a team on the move, right? You know, but them teams will be like 3 and something. They'll highlight, they'll make you come away from that thinking that you did the best job in the world and the Browns went to the Super Bowl. They didn't. But if I was going with that same thing, I would say the new theme for this organization is raising the bar. Now you talking about putting the foundation. If you have an analogy about building a house, all right, you got your basement, you got your first floor. You know what I'm saying? You put a new roof on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got the bones of the house is good. You don't got no leaks. Your electrical is up to snuff. Everything's good. Now we starting to work on the aesthetics of it. We starting to like really just add value to the home now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Do you want to do something in the backyard? Like, do you want to put some new siding on it, right? Are you going to put a deck on it? Like, things that are going to add the value of your home if you're looking to say, okay, am I going to resell this house or I'm going to live here long term? Let's put some bells and whistles to this thing. And so for the Browns, they got the foundation part. Like you understand the Browns could make the playoffs. You understand that the Browns could be competitive, but in turn, now can you have that sustained competitive nature? You may not have the cap space year to year, but we expect you to still be a team that's always in contention for the playoffs. The one thing I'll always give the Pittsburgh Steelers credit with, it doesn't matter if it's Mason Rudolph. It doesn't matter if it's Duck Hodges. They still find ways to win football games based on the way that they play, right? You know, that sustained success is a thing. And year in and year out, if you want to be known as a Super Bowl contender, like we want to see you be able to do it a number of different ways because you have to evolve. We've seen that with the Patriots. They run with 2 tight ends. They won with defense. They was playing players both ways sometimes. But they had Belichick, they had Brady, and so you knew what you was. So now that's the goal. And by the way, that's kind of hard to do, Q. It ain't easy to be perennial powers or be Super Bowl contenders every year. Because if it was that easy, a lot of teams would do it. And there's only a couple of them, the Chiefs and a few other teams that have been able to sustain that for the long haul.
Yeah, it's like when you start making more money, right? Like, you know, you have the problems that you deal with when you get that first job and then that second job and that third job, right? And the expectations keep going up. That second contract is like getting, well, I'm pretty sure it was a raise. Like, I'm pretty sure it was a raise. But it just, the expectations go up with that, right? And I think some of these like criticisms of Kevin that people tried to throw at him in year one didn't really fly because the expectations from in year one, make the playoffs. Well, not year one. Contract one is like, hey, you want to make the playoffs at some point during your contract. He did it twice, 2 11-win seasons. That was always going to be what the bar was for Kevin to get that second deal. Now that you're in that second deal, making the playoffs, it's cool, yeah, but that's not going to be the sole thing that's going to keep your job, right? You want to see some progress in that front. And every year is not going to be the same. These next 2 years, you expect to be Super Bowl contenders. Whatever happens after that is whatever happens after that, right? Like, I don't know if you're going to expect the Browns to be Super Bowl contenders in like 2027, right? Maybe you just expect them, you be happy with the playoff run, or you're trying to re-up on draft picks, or you're trying to reload at quarterback, or whatever it might end up being. You're trying to do that, whatever soft rebuild you end up in, so you can get another window with Myles Garrett, right? And maybe Deshaun Watson.
And say that you said something that really piqued my interest. You said quarterback, right? Yeah. I think what derails a lot of coaches in that year 2 or that second contract is some people would say with Kevin Stefanski, has he figured the quarterback out? They tried with Baker. They tried with Deshaun Watson. I think even before Super Bowl, the Browns, he has to, I think his number one priority is the reclamation project of Deshaun Watson. They have to figure that out. Like that, because he'll be here. It's not like he's going to get fired if they don't do his thing. That contract solidifies he will be here after Deshaun Watson if it does not work. However, the number one thing that can buy you some time is if you find the quarterback and you just got to tweak on the margins. Do you think that, you know, that's a major tripping point or a major thing that could derail his second contract if he doesn't figure the quarterback position out?
It's always a possibility that that could be something that can derail a coach's second contract. I look at it like this. I think there's a chance that, like, hey, Deshaun Watson gives you a couple of great years for this year, next year, right? But it's not guaranteed that he's going to be playing at a super high level after that, right? Because he'll be starting to get 35, 32, 33 years old. We have to see how his game ages. Now, to his credit, it seems like from what he's been talking about, he's been suggesting that he's making some adjustments to his game that's going to help him age better, and he's trying to reinvent himself. He even came to camp with new swag. like
Advisor looked good. He looked good on Madden. If they let him get that off of Madden, he's a 90
they ain't gonna let
the,
you have the bandana in Madden. They don't let you have no fun in Madden. Okay, like, you're gonna have to play NCAA,
right?
But yeah, it seems like he kind of understands that he needs to reinvent himself. I think that game, how Kansas City beat the Baltimore Ravens, and he realized that Pat Mahomes basically did the same thing he had to do to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And that was like, we can get to the Super Bowl, right? I think that's when it went off in his head, like, oh, we can get to the Super Bowl and it don't got to look like it did in Houston. Like, I don't got to do all of that. Like, it's kind of like, look at the degree of difficulty of shots that you see. And I'm just working off game one, and it might be outdated by the time this comes out. But if you watch game one of the NBA Finals, I saw Kristaps Porzingis just get easy shot after easy shot. Like, just uncontested shot there, because he's just taller than everybody on the field, right? So he didn't have to do all the crazy stuff. He did a little bit of the crazy, but he ain't had to do all the crazy stuff to get a bucket. He just stood his ground and shot. Then you look at Kyrie and Luka try to get a shot, and they huffing and puffing, right? Like, to get their shot. And I think for Deshaun, he's in a situation where it's like, you ain't got to do all that huffing and puffing like you did in Houston, right? To get your shot.
I think the roster is better. The roster allows you not to have to work that tough. When you got Tatum and Brown, that's ISO and then doing what they doing and guarding the best players.
And you got all of this attention spread around, right? Yeah. And if you look at the Cleveland Browns, it's like, yeah, you worry about Deshaun, but you got David Njoku to worry about, Nick Chubb to worry about. You got Amari Cooper to worry about. And then you let Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, and David Njoku, you give all that attention to them. Jerry Jeudy can do some damage if you're not paying attention to him. Elijah Moore can do some damage if you're not paying attention to him. And that's going to be a lot to deal with for a lot of these teams. And then you have to think about, hey, they got that defense, right? So they might get the ball back real quick, or they might get a turnover real quick, right? And the defense, I always talk about this, defense is the biggest help a quarterback can get. You look at all them sorry quarterbacks that have ever won a Super Bowl, G. Literally, think about all of them. Name me one sorry quarterback that got to the Super Bowl with a great offense and a mid defense. Like, it's always somebody with the monster defense that hits there. Like, if you look at the most supported quarterbacks, they are always supported by the monster defense. We always underestimate this when we talk about that quarterback doesn't have help. Defense is the biggest help a quarterback can have. And the Browns might have the best defense in the NFL. And he's not necessarily a quarterback that's demonstrated he needs all of that help to win when he was playing well or healthy for a full season in Houston. So that's what I think is going to be interesting to see, is like, how long do you get peak play out of Deshaun Watson, right? Because you traded for him at the end at the start of his prime. It's starting to get towards the end. He's 29 right now. You put together some of your best work in life at 29. I'm not just saying that because I'm 29.
Just so happens I'm 29. Right in.
29 is like, that's a really good age still.
And plus, look, I mean, quarterbacks are playing longer than ever. Like, I mean, they really don't get. I mean, he had a fluke injury where he, ran a quarterback power play and got hit on the shoulder. But for the most part, quarterbacks, you really can't hit them. I mean, you could gracefully lose some arm strength, right? If you know still where to put the ball. I mean, Drew Brees got so much out of his arm, he can't even put a suit jacket on no more. Can't even lift his arm no more. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff. And like you said, I think he's going to find new ways and new directions of how to play. And I think he's going, to me, complementary football always works, right? If you're going to have a great defense that you have with the Browns, there are certain things that you can do. Like, you could play conservatively, right? in order to say, all right, we're going to play conservative because we feel our defense can keep us in this game. Or on the flip side, you can get aggressive. You can go for stuff that you normally wouldn't go for because you're like, well, they ain't scoring my defense. So you can play it both ways, you know, with the defense you got. So I definitely agree that, you know, he has a longer runway than a lot of people want to give him credit for.
And I think the thing with Deshaun, and this is why I've been very specific on what I want out of him this year, is okay. The Browns play 17 games this year. I think for at least half to 10 of them, they're gonna be able to win on defense alone. You're gonna be able to get 8 to 10 wins just straight. Like if Jameis was the quarterback, I still think they can get 8 to 10 wins just straight up off the defense, right? How you get above that number is, hey, there were games like Seattle last year where you have Deshaun Watson and you probably win because you didn't need a great quarterback performance, but you needed a quarterback performance, right? In order to get past that game.
Was one of those
Denver,
games.
Another one. The first game that Joe Flacco started is another one, right? Against the Rams, right? Like all of those games you think of, you're like, I need you to win those games, right? Like you're not going to win every game where the defense doesn't play well and, you know, you're going to lose some games, right? But can you get half of those games back, right? When the defense is like, hey, you're going to have 7 games where the defense is going to be less dominant than what they normally are. Are you able to keep up? Are you able to give this team an edge? Are you able to bail the defense out, right? If you have a team that can do that, you have a Super Bowl contender because teams that can do that, G, are the teams that can win 4 times in a row. Because here's the teams that always fail in the playoffs, the one-trick ponies, right? Yep. You're a one-trick pony. It's hard to win 4 games in a row doing the same thing.
Yeah, even if you just one-sided, like say for instance, you're a team that has a great defense, but you listen, that's cool, but you playing the best offenses and the best teams in the league and quarterbacks, you got to score too. Teams that score a bunch of points, like the Dolphins scored 80 points in September when it was hot. Well, what you doing when it get cold and you gonna be on the road because you ain't better than some of these teams?
You play Pat Mahomes in negative 15-degree weather. And then all that don't matter no more, right?
It don't matter.
Like you gotta be able to have a jab, you gotta have a counter, you have a cross, you have a right hand, you gotta have a left hand. That's what the playoffs teaches you. It's like, oh, you need to be able to win so many different styles of games. The Baltimore Ravens, right? They could not win a game where they just had to run the ball because they were convinced that they did not have to run the ball to beat the Kansas City Chiefs for whatever reason. You have to be comfortable being able to just win how you win it. Sometimes your defense going to win you that game, and your job at quarterback, let the defense win that game, right? You don't need 300 yards. You don't need 4 touchdowns. You don't need to blow it up.
Sometimes you gotta have a great game plan that your coaches put together. You be like, dang, every button they push is working. The gadget play worked. The scheme worked. They doubled this person into work. They got turnovers. Special teams work. Sometimes that's just the way it's going to be. Now, I do think this. To me, the path, the Browns got the roster. I think Deshaun will play well this year. I think that one thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be counting wins early and often. I truly believe that the Cleveland Browns need to play at least one. Like on the road, it's tough. History tells us teams going on the road every single week in the playoffs. Are you going to do that 4 times? I saw the Ravens do it with Flacco once, but I believe the Cleveland Browns. For whatever reason, the defense plays completely different at home. I don't know if that'll continue this year, but I think the Browns need to play at least one playoff game at home. I'll put it to you like this. I think the Browns may have not won that game, but if you go back and look at the Houston Texans game, if that game is in Cleveland, I think that's a different ball game.
I think at that game, you see, you're gonna make me do the thing again.
Look, see, I
set it up. I ain't gonna talk to you about what I think changes it, but yeah,
I set it up a different way. That was dope, though. That was fire.
Don't pass me that ball.
Hey, listen, because I feel like you may feel like in another universe. Flacco was due for one of them Flacco games, right? That's what it was.
I think he played the same game he played all year. Like, it just had worse consequences than what it was. He was great, and then he had some really bad moments. Like, hey, Joe Flacco know this too. Why you think he about to be behind Anthony Richardson this year? He ain't trying to start. Like, I ain't saying nothing that wasn't true about Joe Flacco. Like,
now listen, I
praised him.
We've been going back and forth about the backups for 3 years. We had Case Keenum. We didn't have Joe Flacco. You had Joe Flacco. And now we got Jameis Winston. And you said something about Jameis earlier. This may sound dumb. I think if Jameis Winston had to play, like, start the whole season, I still think the Browns could make the playoffs.
Yeah. Let me make this point clear. It ain't got nothing to do with Jameis. Like, I don't think Jameis gonna mess it up, right? Like, I think Jameis will have some moments during that season.
I think Jameis can wake up and give you 30 touchdowns because he's gonna throw certain balls that have no business being thrown that may actually come down for touchdowns. Now he's gonna throw you 25 the other way too. Like, I think he the only 40 and 40 guy I've ever seen.
Well, look, you could get away with all that when your defense is that good, right? And that's going to be dependent on the Browns' defense being as good, if not better, than they were last year. But if they are, then you can win 10 games with Jameis. And I don't think it's that big of a deal because you won 11 last year. And all them quarterbacks you played last year, outside of Deshaun, were probably not that much better than Jameis Winston, if better at all. And I don't think they were.
Huntley was better than those guys. If Huntley's on the roster, he's playing over PJ Walker and
we might have got the 1 seed, because we would have beat Seattle for sure.
Stop, see, you be messing around with me with that because
so then we would have played our starters versus Cincinnati. And we come on, we want to beat Cincinnati. We got that. So yeah. But you can't be mad at 11-6.
No,
but one thing I do want to hit on, because I think this gets lost. And look, I want to be ahead on this. I talked about this when I had Cam on, and I'm gonna talk about this with you. People sleeping on the fact that Jameis Winston is a football savant. Like, I know people forget because Jameis Winston was eating all them W's. What was Jameis Winston's reputation coming out of Florida State?
Jameis, let's be clear. Jameis Winston was the first. He's the first overall pick. Like, let's not act like.
And it wasn't because Jameis Winston had this cannon of an arm or that he was like this specimen as an athlete. That was Marcus Mariota in that draft. As crazy as that sounds in 2024. But Jameis Winston, like, the one thing that I have not heard enough people talk about the value that Jameis Winston brings to the team is he is football brilliant. Like, he is a true resource. Like, when Deshaun Watson goes on that sideline and they're trying to cook up something, him, Amari Cooper, and Deshaun Watson, that's a really good, like, tandem to be like, hey, this is what's going on. Y'all should try this and that. And Jameis, he willing to throw some shit out there that nobody else is willing to say, but be brilliant, right?
And,
like that.
And he gets buy-in. Like, he's like a dude, like, that's in the locker room that gets buy-in. Like, ain't nobody said they didn't like Jameis Winston. Like, ain't nobody said, oh, Jameis is the distraction. He don't be doing. Jameis Winston know his game. Jameis Winston know ball. Jameis Winston can play. Like, he can throw the football. It's not like, I mean, this guy's a Heisman Trophy winner. This guy's a national champion. This guy's the #1 overall pick. Like, at the end of the day, Jameis Winston is a guy in this league who's been around some quarterbacks, been around in some systems, and he know what the heck he's talking about when you get him on that dry erase board. Like that's a added bonus, man. Like,
like, he's somebody who could easily be a coach when they retire. And if I'm the Browns, I'm like, yeah, you want Jameis because of the value he adds as a backup quarterback and what he could bring to the field. But if this Deshaun thing works out, I think you're gonna want to just consider having Jameis around just because Jameis is an excellent resource to have back there as somebody who really does have a plus level football mind, which again, people sleep on because they get used to all the like funny sayings that Jameis does or all this other stuff. But Jameis, when it comes to being a football guy, brilliant. Brilliant. That's why he's been able to stick around. Is like having a big reputation at backup quarterback. We know that don't normally stick, but the reason that man be valuable to that X's and O's conversation.
And one of the reasons Kevin Stefanski, I did a blog and I said how Kevin Stefanski won me over. One of the things that's most impressive to me is his collection of football acumen that he's brought in. The fact that he has Mike Vrabel out there, like running scout team in these meetings, talking with Jim Schwartz, the fact that he did bring a dude like Jameis Winston in that thinks a different way. He has college guys that have been under Saban and college guys that have been at Notre Dame and Tommy Rees and guys like that. And plus you bring in Dorsey. He has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to football. And you can't have enough guys when it comes to the creativity of the game, making adjustments. I like the young staff. I like that they hungry. I heard Deuce Staley talk. Stump Mitchell had a good reputation in this league. Bill Callahan had a sterling reputation in this league. But listen, I'm listening to some of these young guys and the football knowledge he's brought in without the ego and willing to have these guys be in your building like that just goes to show you how Kevin Stefanski is trying to he thinking a little differently. He not thinking small. He thinking big picture. And I like what he brought together.
And it's a similar thing like in rap, right? You get these guys who can get features, and you could tell by how these dudes come on them features how much they respect who's on that record with them, right?
Right.
They give you that garbage. I'm gonna just throw this in here feature.
Them throwaway bars.
Yeah, they ain't really. They just did that for the check, right? But then you get these guys out here who get these like who really trying these features. And look, he got Mike Vrabel out there coaching linebackers, and they ain't even close to Mike Vrabel's job right now.
No,
right? Like he has Jim Schwartz out there. Jim Schwartz won assistant coach of the year under him. Like it seems like and then you look at like some of the personnel he's let go of. They have found jobs, which is
they ain't
Joe Woods got another job as a defensive coordinator. He let go of him, right? Alex Van Pelt got another job as a offensive coordinator. He let go of him. Those things tell me a lot about what people around the league think of that program and that coach. And that tells me that they're like, nah, this dude is to be respected. Like, it just didn't work out there for some reason, but there's something there that we want to emulate with us. And that is the ultimate sign of respect when you can bring in Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel ain't trying to run a coup, right? Like Mike Vrabel out here just like, nah, man, I'm just doing what needs to be done. Kev's my guy.
We talking ball. We just talking a little ball out here. Like, and I love, I watched Rich Eisen the other day, and he said, I love what Kevin said. He said, look, man, hey, I told Mike I respect him and his family time. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if you give me an hour, give me an hour. If you give me 30 hours, give me 30 hours. Whatever you can give to us, I'm appreciating. We're going to use you. We're going to use you to the highest level.
And the confidence, right, in himself, because we have seen insecurity destroy coaching staffs before. We saw this when Kyle Shanahan was here. Where Mike Patton was worried that he was going to get like all of this weird shit that happens when you have bad guys being the head coach. One thing with Kevin is he'll bring in a Jim Schwartz who like people be like, oh, he should take his job. He'll bring in somebody who's like a Ken Dorsey who was getting head coach looks a couple years ago, right? And people could be like, oh, he should take it. He's okay with bringing these guys in, a Bubba Ventrone, and saying, hey, I'm in charge. It's cool, but like I'm gonna make sure that all of these other guys are super qualified. I'm gonna get the best people possible, and I'm gonna leave my ego out of it. And he seems to do a good job of making sure everybody else leaves their ego out of it. And look, this team has an identity. This team has like they're not like a badly behaved team. Like this team really kicks it in a way we can respect. They not soft. But they not just like hard to root for, right? They not just being outrageous to be outrageous or uncontrolled. They're very controlled, right? They don't have very many crazy penalties or crazy situations happen like that since Stefanski's gotten here. And when you talk about a year before, Myles Garrett smacking somebody in the helmet, right? like that's what we was dealing with before. So it's all of those things kind of tell me, okay, the people in football have a high opinion of him. And I mean, like, when's the last time we said that about a Cleveland Browns coach? But G, gotta get you out of here, man. Appreciate you for having me on. Looking clean, keep the tsunami going. You know, stay clean out there, bro.
Free to wave. Shout out to Surf, man.
You know what I mean? I'm worried because you got the headphones at the crown. See, look, I saw what you doing.
Yeah. You see,
you got the. You ain't gonna mess up the swirl right there. You know?
We're not gonna do all that. We're not gonna do all that, man. We, so we gonna catch y'all. I mean, keep that shoulder. Get some rehab, man. Get you some rehab, bro. You gotta get that shoulder together, dog.
I just need some time off, right? Need some time off.
Well, if you ain't getting in this summer, you ain't getting it during football season. That's a wrap.
What you think I'll record this for? This so I can have some time off. What you mean, y'all? Like,
listen, he's splitting it different on the content.
Happen, but this gonna go up.
15 minutes. He's like 15 minutes. I know G Bush gonna talk this light right here. Let me put this boy right here.
Throw this up next week. Yeah, we good. We
out of here, bro.
But y'all have a great day. Have a better night. G, thank you for coming on. Make sure y'all check out G everywhere you can check him out. Peace.